Hi there, I'm Arturo. Today I'd like to talk to you about starting up an aquaponics system. Now there's a lot of ways of doing this, and like everything else in life, everybody has their opinion on it. I'm not saying this is the absolute way you can do it. This is what's worked for me, and I've built many systems through my various activities. So the first thing you're going to want to figure out when you start your system is what kind of system do you want. There's media bed, which has granite or river rock or expanded clay, whatever you choose to use. And this is just a high-level overview. And so that's the first decision you're going to want to make. Or do you want a raft system, which is a floating piece of foam with holes in it that holds your baskets up. The second decision you're going to want to make is, do you want it constant flow, where the water pump's always on, and that has its issues, or do you want it ebb and flow, where the pump kicks on and off, or using an auto siphon, which is another option. So what we want to talk about first is once you have that figured out and how your system's laid out, the first decision you're going to have to make is how do you want to cycle your water. Cycling your water is probably one of the most important parts, because if you get this wrong, it's not going to work for you. So the first decision you have to make is, if you're using municipal water, it more than likely has chlorine in it. So you've got to get that chlorine out somehow. And that's called off-gassing. So when you take your water, if you're doing it, say, in a 150-gallon fish tank, or 300, you're just going to take longer if there's more water to off-gas. So what you can do is just fill it up with your city water and put your air stones in there and turn the air pump on and just let it bubble for a few days. That'll get the gas out. Now there's a whole other issue with that called chloramines, and that's another discussion, but that's basically, it's not gaseous, it's chlorine and ammonia bound together chemically, which doesn't off-gas. We'll cover that in another topic. So once you've got the water off gas, now if you're not using municipal water and you're fortunate enough to have rainwater, then you don't have to worry about this piece of the cycling, because there's no chlorine in the water. If you're using well water, same principle. You don't need to worry about the off-gassing. So next we want to talk about the nitrifying bacteria. Now this is what marries the whole system together. So the cycle is, the fish produce waste, and that waste is broken down by bacteria, and that waste from the bacteria becomes fertilizer for the plants. Fish produce ammonia. Two bacteria come along, Nitrus ammonis eats ammonia for breakfast. Its waste products are nitrites, which is also toxic. And then the second bacteria, Nitrobacter, comes along. It eats nitrites for breakfast. And its waste are nitrates. And nitrates are fertilizer for the plants. And that goes into the plants absorb those nitrates, clean the water, it goes right back in the fish tank, and we got that cycle going. Now, what marries all this together is the bacteria. So that's what we need to talk about for a minute here. The bacteria are occurring in nature. If you just let your water sit there for 6 weeks, they would start appearing in there. But we want to move faster than that. So there's different ways of cycling. This is called cycling your system. The first way is just what I said, sit there and wait for 6 weeks or something, and that's fine if you've got the time for that. Another way is you can actually buy this bacteria. You can be purchased. Just make sure it's nitrifying bacteria, and it's Nitrus ammonis, Nitrobacter. There's other kinds, but that would probably be your best bet right there. Now, at any point through this, you can have fish in your system. So I recommend always across the board to start out with goldfish for several reasons. They're nasty fish, and that's why you don't see them in aquariums very often. Nasty to the degree that they produce ammonia, and that's what we want. They're tough little guys, and they're hardy little fish. So you may want to start with that, and then buy your more expensive fish, your tilapia or whatever species you want to grow. So by adding, and they're producing ammonia the whole time also, but by buying the product, nitrifying bacteria product, and adding it to the system, you're inoculating the system, so that kickstarts and gets everything going. Another method is to actually take ammonia and put a capful at a time, and that'll get the bacteria. Now you don't want to put too much. It'll kill everything. It's poison, and it'll hurt your fish if you put too much at once. So you want to be real careful about that, and you want to use pure ammonia, not the yellow smelly stuff, just the pure as you can get, and that will help kickstart the process. By far the easiest method, the one I like, is just find someone with an aquaponics system, and you can just take water from their system, dump it into yours, and that gets everything started. Now, if you remember, I said the fish produce ammonia, and then that first bacteria comes along, the Nitrus ammonis, and it produces nitrites. So you've got two poisons in the water now. And this is the critical time, the most critical time in your aquaponic growth. The possibility exists that ammonia gets so high and the nitrites get so high that it's toxic. That's called a nitrite spike. And you've got to watch the water at this time. You've got to test every day at this stage of the game. So the only practical way to deal with a nitrite spike is to do what's called a water change. Now that's taking 1/3 of the volume of your water and dumping it out and putting in fresh water. If you're using chlorinated water, you've got to have 1/3 at all times across the board, no matter how long you've had your system, that supply of water available so that you can do, if there's any problem, you can do a water change. If you're using rainwater or well water, again, you don't have to worry about that. So you do a 1/3 water change. What that does is it dilutes the water, the toxins, and it allows the bacteria to get caught up with itself so the nitrobacter, that second bacteria, can start breaking everything down. So you want to be very, very cautious about that nitrite spike. So once you've got all that settled, well, you know, as long as we're on the topic here, let's talk about testing real quick, because I mentioned that. The very first thing you're going to want to test for is chlorine. I mean, we know that. And if you don't have chlorine problems, don't even worry about it, skip that. The next thing you're going to be looking for is ammonia, because you want to be careful that your ammonia doesn't get too high, because that'll kill your fish, that'll kill your bacteria, it'll kill your plants. Same as if you're in a nitrite spike. So you want to monitor that. That's the first thing you're going to look for is ammonia. The second thing you're going to test for are nitrites. So that will tell you two things. A, the bacteria is doing its job. It's starting to move. The cycle's starting to close, the nitrification cycle. So now we've got two toxins, so you're going to want to test for nitrites to make sure, and your ammonia at the same time. And they should be going up slowly. The third thing you're going to want to test for and be really careful with are the nitrates. Now nitrates, once you see those, I mean, you're almost home free, because you know that the bacteria's in there, it's doing its job, and it should be changing the chemistry of the water to make it sustainable. Now throughout all that, there's something that's really important that you want to keep your eye on, and it can change pretty rapidly, so you got to be careful, and that's the pH. So your pH, and they come in little test strips, they come in reagents, which are the liquids, and you look at the color chart. But you want to check the pH. You got to make sure that the pH is, if it's too high, certain nutrients can't be absorbed. If it's too low, certain nutrients can't get absorbed for the plants. And your fish tend to like a higher pH, and plants tend to like a lower pH. So we settle on 7, which is about neutral. So you want to get as close to 7 as you can. And you can adjust, there's ways of adjusting your pH, and that's another module, but that's something you want to be aware of. So you're testing through all of this, and at any point you can put your plants in. Just know this, first thing people want to do a lot of times is they want to start putting fruit in there. They want to put bell peppers and cucumbers and tomatoes and squash. You can't do that, because a fruit it's having babies, if you want to look at it that way. So you don't want to use any nutrient, plants that need a lot of nutrient, let's put it that way. So you want to use leafy greens like cilantro, herbs, lettuce, spinach, that sort of thing to get the system cycled. Once enough nutrients have been produced, then you can put your fruit in. And depending on your water and your fish and the amount of fish you have, that could be anywhere from a month to 3, just it depends on where you are. So just be aware that you don't want to add fruit in the beginning, because there's just not enough nutrients to sustain it. Your plants are going to suffer, and nothing's going to grow for you.